So we just want to say thank you for all our forefathers and everyone who participated. I don't care what color you were.
Right.
And some of them are still fighting for all of us freedom. We're all fighting for freedom. No matter where you from and who you are, we thank you for standing up for your rights.
We thank for some of your family members that are dead, were hung and killed for the rights of human rights for all people, including especially in the United States for the blacks and everything.
Right.
We thank you, the Quakers and other people and Jewish groups and you name it, Hispanic groups and Asian groups and everybody else that fought for human rights, even in those times. Because remember that they had problems too. The Chinese had problems there a lot. They were abusing everything too as well.
Exactly.
And other people of color and some of the Quakers are ones that had really hid us and hid our people. I wouldn't be here today, she wouldn't be here today if it had not been for them as well. And all the leaders, all the ones that led us out of the hole and continually leading us out of the hole of what I hate the word racial, which is not really a definition of nothing, but we put up with that word, but it's really not, doesn't coin and nobody as being colored or whatever.
Right.
That's something somebody else came up with that probably was illiterate anyway.
Right.
But anyway, we fight. We continue to doing this as Lena Horne has done. Lena Horne has suffered a lot because of the love of people.
And we still suffering. Jesus suffered his love for us by dying on the cross. And how much love do you have to go that far? I mean, he had great love. That's all I can say. He had great love, because anyone else would have been like, I'm not gonna die for everybody.
Right. He said no greater love.
It's no way.
Has a man died, laid down his life. Jesus laid down his life. I don't care what language you speak. He laid down his life for you. I don't care what color you are, what class you in, as they call us, lower class, high class, middle class. He laid down his life for you. Yes. The suffering love.
Right.
That's what the title of it would be, the suffering love. The suffering love, as you see in some of our leaders, some of our people that suffered.
They sure did.
Many times to make it for us in the natural life.
Right.
Lena Horne, she suffered many times. She had to back up.
Suffered.
Right. You have people from all over the world. The other guy, Gandhi suffered.
He suffered.
Even though he wasn't in the Christian life, but he suffered for rights, for human rights.
He got assassinated.
And that's right. He eventually was assassinated.
And Malcolm X.
The suffering of love. That's right.
Too.
Malcolm X was one too. Malcolm X's dad was one.
Yeah.
He was a preacher. Malcolm X's dad was a Jesus preacher.
That's right.
He was.
Yes,
he was killed by some white Americans at that time. You see what I'm saying? So if you look at the history and how his family was treated and everything, you can see why Malcolm X had some psychological problems.
Right.
So the suffering love his dad had, and suffering love that Malcolm X had, Malcolm X had became reformed. He had came back to the Lord himself.
Right.
If you look at it, a lot of people don't mention that, but Malcolm X returned to the Lord.
Right.
Not to the religion that he was in, but to the Lord. And they don't mention that much.
No. And he had inner peace. I really
he had inner peace and everything.
Before his assassination, he did have inner peace. He knew that his time was up. He got the chance before his death. He had an opportunity to know Jesus. So I really believe
because his
that
dad
he was
knew
at
Jesus.
peace.
So
Right.
I believe he
really
really did. Yes. And so that's
peace.
a lot of things when it's rooted in you. I don't know how it can get out of you.
Right.
When it just bothers you all the time to think about what Jesus had done for us. He came off his throne and lowered himself into a body. And her name was Mary.
Right.
Lowered himself into a human body so that he would take the place of ours.
Right.
Because we were doomed. We was going to meet the last judgment with the devil.
That's right.
Yes, we were. Had not been for Jesus, the suffering love that he had for us, all the abuse that even when, like we mentioned, Jesus had, as well as people that have struggled for human rights, they were hung. Quakers were hung.
That's right.
White Americans were hung for Black Americans,
Sure.
African Americans they call it sometimes. They were hung for us. They were killed because they had helped us help our people get through the
Underground Railroad.
The Underground Railroad.
And also being friends.
Being friends of us and everything else.
Marrying
us. Mixed married, as they say. See how the enemy calls it a mixed marriage? It's not really. It's just a marriage.
That's all it is.
So a lot of people have suffered to stay together. They were egged. The house was egged. The house was burned because they had married, because they loved one another. That's suffering love. That Jesus Christ had up for us. He knew that we were going to be black. He knew that you were going to be white. He knew that you was going to be Asian. He knew you was going to be a Mexican. He knew that you was going to be Chinese, Japanese, North Korean, South Korean, Indian, Native American. He knew that.
Right.
He knew those. And if I miss any of you all, he knew that.
Right.
That you was going to be that. But he died for us. He died for Jews as well as he died for all mankind. He suffered like never before. Like nobody else. And he still took on that thing.
He sure did. And I was thinking about how much our grandparents and our parents, even ourselves, we suffered our love, for our children. When especially mothers, when we happen to give birth to our children, we suffer the love because of the pain. The sickness that may go with it, or even after we have the children, we may have elements that may come upon us that we don't understand, and it's like, why is this happening to us? Why I have breast cancer? Why I have uterus cancer? Why I have this and that? You have high blood pressure, you have diabetes, you have high cholesterol, you have all these things. And then you still keep on keeping on. You're still going out there. You're going to work. You're still going to school. You're still going to maintain your family, and being supportive to your husband. Suffering love is such a great word to say, because we suffer so much every day for our loved ones, for our friends, even our strangers that are out there. Because right now we're suffering love because we're coming to you today. Our love that we have, and through the elements that we're going through, we are still going through it. But we're saying, hey, we're going to take ourselves out of the way so that the Lord can enter in, and so He can bring the message through us to you. Right. So that you can be able to receive what He has plans and what His messages is about.
You see an example in the book of the Bible where Joseph, not the married Joseph, but the Joseph that was in the Old Testament, had suffered. He was 17 years old when he was taken from his mother and father. And he suffered. That's suffering love.
Right.
They were going to kill him, but they didn't. They sold him. He became a real slave. One of those, not servitude slave, but a real slave. Right. One that is not even considered being a human.
Right.
For that. So he was taken.
Right.
And then he was, he suffered. That's the suffering love. Right. Because he had a job to do. But he hadn't, according to history, according to the Bible, he didn't know that he had to go through all of that to get to the point where he'll be able to deliver his brothers and his sisters and his mother and his father. Not his mother. His mother had already passed away from starvation, from the drought. So that's called suffering love. Right. He was put in jail for things that he didn't do.
Oh, yes.
He was sold before. He was sold as a slave, and then he was put in jail because he made up in his mind that he was not going to have sexual intercourse with his leader's wife.
That's right.
So he was put in jail, and he had blessed the men that was in jail, suffering love, and